Hey everyone, my name is José Queiroz, I'm one of the creators of Ravohria, and in this video I will explain you how to play it. Story. In a world where the global economy is dominated by the corrupt Ravohria family, an infiltrator had to act quickly, when the family developed capsules capable of generating natural crystals, in a lab at the entrance of the restricted area that they controlled. The infiltrator decided to hire mercenaries from rival leaders to steal the capsules and deliver them to each leader, aiming to scatter these dangerous innovations among different groups. Each mercenary seeks to achieve the best performance and reputation in this mission, doing whatever is necessary according to their leader's secret agenda. The game begins after the mercenaries have successfully stolen the capsules. Now, they must escape through the restricted area, surviving the rush of the Ravohria Sentinels, all while destroying the Ravohria family. To win, players must maximize their score by earning general points, while also fulfilling the objectives tied to their leader. In this quest, it's a battle of egos where combat, mayhem, and chaos reign, as players directly clash and scheme to secure victory. The game was designed to provide endless replayability, with many board components placed at random to create variety and new challenges. As the map dictates part of the difficulty of the game, we will follow this setup as it's appropriate for beginners. However, we will provide more setups in the description box below. So now, to copy this setup, you need to know its components. Starting step, board steps, exit step, interferences, cores, and towers. A singular space in a board step is called a board space. Cores are connected to the top right of board spaces, and interferences are placed on top of board spaces. With the board now completed, let's prepare the rest of the components. There are 4 decks: Kinetic, Resource, Origin, and Arcane. There are also Leader and Tower cards, that once distributed should be put away without seeing. Shuffle all decks and place them where you see fit, but leave space to reveal 4 Kinetic cards. Place 4 Tower cards face down at the end of the board and put away the remaining cards. Distribute dashboards according to the number of players, along with 3 markers that should be placed in their starting position: life at max, adrenaline at 0, and knowledge at 0. Place the power token and the action tokens accordingly as you see. On all players' dashboards, place the leader tokens exactly in the same position for easy reference. Randomly assign capsules and leader cards to all players. Place the capsule on the dashboard and put away the remaining cards without seeing them, because they are meant to be kept secret. Place all 6 types of resources for crystals, pink, teal, orange, and green, illusions, and nox, alongside the 3 dices of power and the dice of punishment in suitable locations. Provide players a databook that holds essential information to help them throughout the game. Choose the mercenary you want to play with and place it at the start alongside the Sentinels in the starting step. Also, on this step, place 1 marker on the first patrol level. Randomly choose the first player and assign him the light token, with the sunlight faced up. This is the end of the setup. Game flow. In the game, each round represents a day, and it's split into 2 turns, sunlight and moonlight, and players use the light token to track each turn. At the start of each day, players proceed through the following phases in clockwise order, beginning with the player holding the light token. First, we have the draw phase, where each player draws a total of 4 cards with no particular order, 2 cards of their choice from either Origin or Resource decks. They can choose 2 cards from one deck or 1 from each, and also players draw 2 Kinetic cards. When drawing from this deck, players can opt to draw one of the revealed cards, and if they do so, they need to replace it with a new one. Or they can draw also directly from its deck. When there are no more cards to draw from a certain deck, reshuffle the discard pile of that deck into a new one. After the draw phase, we have the generating phase. Players generate all resources from their capsules and build cards. So, when the game begins, players only generate resources from their capsules. Then we have the activation phase, where players activate any build card's activation abilities. Then the turn begins, starting with the sunlight phase, where each player can take up to 3 actions and interact with any game mechanics. After the last player finishes their sunlight phase, the light token is flipped to its moonlight side and players move to the moonlight phase, where players can take 3 more actions and again interact freely with game mechanics. As you can see, during either sunlight or moonlight phase, a player's turn is only limited by their available actions. When the final player completes the moonlight phase, the round ends. The light token is passed to the left and flipped back to the sunlight side. Then, all players unturn all cards, the knowledge power token, and the action tokens. And these phases repeat until the game ends. Resources and lists. There are 6 types of resources: Nox, illusions, and 4 kinds of crystals. Crystals are used to play or build cards that require payment, but also to each crystal type, it's associated a certain amount of energy. Pink is 1 energy, teal and orange each provide 2 energy, green provides 3 energy, but also can be used as any crystal color for payments. This energy can be used with the energy list. Nox and illusions can also be used according to their respective lists. All this information is available in the databook. Markers. Let's look at each player's dashboard. There are 3 markers. The life marker is moved when a player gains or loses life. Reaching the symbol kills the player, meaning he will stop playing and all the progress and points he has made throughout the game are ignored. Adrenaline. This marker is moved when a player gains adrenaline. Each adrenaline level represents 1 passive power, reaching a maximum of 2. When players have 2 adrenaline, they can opt to reset the adrenaline, meaning they'll put the marker on the starting position at 0, losing all its associated power. But by doing so, they gain 1 life. Players can reset whenever they want, even as a response to an arcane card. Knowledge. This marker is moved when a player gains knowledge, and this represents activated power that can be used in combats, such as duels and patrols. By turning the respective knowledge power token, players are capped at the max position of life and knowledge, meaning that they can no longer increase those levels. Cards. Looking at the cards, if there is any cost, is noted in its top left corner. And while kinetic cards are limited by turn actions, all other cards can be played or built without any limits or order. Build cards should be placed next to the player's dashboard. There is a limit of 6 build cards. If a player chooses to build a new card, he may do so by replacing one of his choosing and putting it on the respective discard pile. Resource deck. Resource cards represent resources collected and revitalized with technology acquired from this massive natural reserved area. Once built, these cards contribute to the resource generation in the generating phase indicated in the center of each card. Origin deck. This deck embodies the mercenaries' adaptation to the environment, and it includes 4 types of cards: techs, fates, impacts, and virus. Tech and fate cards are built and remain in play until destroyed or replaced, enhancing the player's gameplay. Some cards' mechanics only trigger in respective phases. However, there is a once per day mechanic that players may opt to trigger, as the name suggests, once per day. These cards also have power, which is located in the bottom right of each card, which can be activated in the game for combats, like duels or patrols. And in the respective time to do so, players need to turn the card to notify that they are going with that power. Fate cards provide 2 points at the end of the game per fate card built, and in general, they are more powerful than tech cards and have a synergy with leader cards. Impact cards are played and generally resolved immediately. Once resolved, they are kept, as each provides 1 point at the end of the game. Virus cards are meant to limit other players' dynamics, and when played, you need to target the player and put the virus in front of that player's dashboard. To destroy the virus, players need to execute the price indicated in the bottom of the card. Until then, players keep the virus. There are 4 subtype origin cards: Weapon, Mind, Device, and Companion. The subtype is indicated in the middle right side of each origin card, and they are used for combinations. Hand limit. At the beginning of a new day, players can hold up to 6 cards, not counting Arcane cards, and must discard to reach that limit if needed. When discarding a card, players should place it face up next to its deck, on the deck's discard pile. Actions. By default, per day, players have 6 available actions: 2 movement, 1 duel, 1 engage, and 2 kinetic actions. Players must track their actions on the dashboard by turning the respective action token each time they perform one, remembering that in each turn, sunlight or moonlight, players may perform up to 3 actions. Movement. Players can move to any adjacent board space. When moving, players must move the respective movement token. Only 2 players can occupy the same space at a time, and players can't move into an interference. The starting step is connected to all board spaces on the following step, and players may return to the starting step if forced or if they wish to. Once a player moves to the exit step, they cannot return or be affected by any game mechanics. Interferences. Players can't move, teleport, or be moved in any way into an interference. Interferences cannot be placed on board spaces that already contain a player or another interference. Players can clear a board space which removes the interference, illusion, and engages the core on that board space, without turning the engage action token. Players can clear a board space or place an interference interacting with the Nox list. Players keep all interferences they remove, which will add to 3 points for each. Range. Some mechanics are limited by range and restrict dynamics or effects to a certain distance. Range is the maximum number of board spaces away you can be from a target. If a card's range is not listed, there is no range limit. Let's follow the example. This player will play an Origin Impact card that enables him to create an interference until a range of 2, and he places it wherever he wants until that limit. Kinetic Action. Kinetic cards are the only cards that exert a toll on the player. This means that they are the only cards limited by actions, and when you play a kinetic card, you must turn the respective kinetic action token on your dashboard. Additionally, these cards are the only cards that can be converted. This means you can place a kinetic card that you hold in your hand in the kinetic discard pile to receive the resource on the bottom right corner. Converting is not an action, and players can convert without limits in their turn. When there's an interaction of drawing or choosing cards from the kinetic deck, players can directly select one of the 4 faced-up cards instead. Example: Intel Kinetic Card and Betrayal Core. The kinetic deck is made of 9 distinct cards. All information regarding these cards is available in the databook. Let's take a closer look at all cards to better understand them. Stun or Disable. Target the player and choose either Stun or Disable in a range of 3. If you stun, targeted player can't do movement or dual actions on their next turn. If you choose Disable, the targeted player can't do engage or kinetic actions on their next turn. Players can remove Stun or Disable by paying its price in the Nox list. Control. Move target opponent 1 board space. If the board space has a core, trigger its control effect, and the core remains on the board. This card has a range of 1. Information regarding the core's control effect is available in the databook, and it will be explained later on. Teleport. Teleport within a distance of up to 2 board spaces. This means that you can go over interferences, for example. Intel. See the top 3 cards from either Kinetic, Origin, or Resource decks. Draw one, and then discard the rest. Madness. You can change the color of 2 crystals to any crystal color. Hack. Swap a core or place it on an empty board space at a range of 3. Bypass. When playing Bypass, you can play any impact type Origin cards or Kinetic cards without paying its energy cost. Power. When you play a power card, place it next to your dashboard. And in case of a combat, you can tap this card to add 2 power for that combat. After the combat, you discard the card. Inspiration. Copy the effects and range of any Kinetic card. Engage Action. Engage Action represents the unique events and scenarios unfolding in each board space. Cores serve as tangible proof of their execution, preserved as lasting memories of the mission. Players can only engage cores on their board space, flipping the respective Engage Action token, then removing the core from the board and placing it face up on their dashboard. Note: clearing a board space can engage cores at the distance and without turning the Engage Action token. Power. All players start the game with the base power of 0, which can be increased in many different ways as the game develops. Power is divided into passive and activated. Passive power is always added by default to a player's baseline power. Examples: Adrenaline and cards that provide passive power. Activated power is added by turning Knowledge Power token, tapping Built Origins, tapping Built Power Kinetic cards, by selecting a dice of power, and other mechanics that provide temporary power. This means it will add to a player's total power for a specific combat. Dice of power. There are 3 dices of power. By default, the dice of power 3 is always selected for any combat. However, this die can be replaced by selecting either a dice of power 4 by discarding 1 card, or dice of power 5 by discarding 2 cards. To further understand the odds of the dice, you can check the rulebook. Additionally, in case of any draw in the game, players only roll the 3 dices of power to find the winner. Combat mechanic. Duels, patrols, and some other dynamics require combat. During any type of combat, always respect and follow the play order. Understanding the flow of combat. First, the player starting the mechanic chooses all desired activated power which will add to their passive power. Then, in clockwise order, other players in combat follow the same steps. Second, rolling the dice. Respecting the play order, each player rolls their selected dice. And third, counting the total power. The player with the highest total power wins. This includes the sum of the player's passive power plus activated power. Remember, by default, players always have their passive power plus the dice of power 3. Also, when activating power, respecting the play order, to reuse power, players may pay to unturn the Knowledge Power token and untap Fate and Tech Origin built cards by paying the respective price in the energy list. Duel action. Players can start a duel once per day by turning the respective action token on their dashboard. Duels are only possible when players are in the same board space, with some exceptions for Arcane or Origin cards. Targeted players after a duel can no longer be targeted by a duel action token until the end of the day. Duels started by Arcane and Impact Origin cards don't make players turn their duel action token. A duel is resolved with a combat mechanic. Resolving the duel. The defeated player rolls the dice of punishment. This dice is connected to the core's control effect, which will be explained later on. The winner steals a non-encrypted core from the defeated player and then encrypts a core they own of their choice, meaning they will flip a core revealing the encrypted symbol. Once encrypted, cores become immune to theft by other players. Other than the owner, players can't see the encrypted cores of other players, unless the owner wants to show it for some game mechanic. Note, if the defeated player doesn't possess any cores to steal, the winner gains 1 adrenaline and then encrypts a core they own. Also, owned cores can be encrypted by either winning duels or by buying encryption via the Nox list, paying its associated cost. Leaders. Each leader has a unique strategy for earning points, and players, acting as mercenaries, align themselves with one of them. Every leader strives for maximum glory and reputation in this mission, driving mercenaries to follow their specific instructions. To succeed, mercenaries should also remain anonymous, preventing opponents from uncovering and sabotaging their plans to claim the ultimate glory. For these reasons and more, identifying the leaders of opposing players is highly beneficial. The path to uncovering an opponent's leader often involves methods like torture, extracting crucial information in the process. Tortures. The torture's goal is to force other players to reveal a leader that isn't theirs. When a player is responsible for the torture of another, their knowledge marker is increased by 1. The targeted player must reveal a leader that isn't theirs by turning a chosen leader token on their dashboard, so all other players can see all the remaining possible leaders. When there are only 2 leaders yet to be revealed by a player, that player can no longer be tortured, and from then on can only be targeted with an accusation. The illusion list is one way of interacting with tortures and accusations. Leader accusations. Let's explore the mechanics of leader accusations with an example for better understanding. Imagine our opponent's leader is the hunter, and he has 3 leaders yet to be revealed. Based on his gameplay, I suspect his leader is indeed the hunter. In my turn, using one illusion, I accuse his leader of being the hunter. Since my accusation is correct, here's what happens. I gain 1 life. I gain 2 knowledge, as he had to turn 2 leader tokens before revealing his actual leader on his dashboard. I gain his leader card and keep it. For each opponent's leader card I hold, I earn 7 points. Besides turning the leader tokens on his dashboard until his leader is revealed, additionally he loses 2 lives. All other players must turn the hunter leader token on their dashboards. Now let's consider that he will accuse me incorrectly. I only have 2 leaders left to be revealed. Now, on his turn, using one illusion, he will accuse my leader of being the code. But my leader is actually the assassin. Here's what happens. He gains 1 knowledge, as I had to turn 1 leader token. Since my leader wasn't discovered, and I had only 2 leaders left, I turn the code token leader, then I reveal my actual leader card, the assassin, and I keep it for myself. He will lose 2 lives for an incorrect accusation. All other players must turn the assassin leader token on their dashboards. After this, no one can accuse me again. Conclusion. A player only needs to reveal their leader if they are correctly accused, or if they are down to their last 2 leaders and they are incorrectly accused. As the player reveals their leader, they can no longer be accused or tortured. Accusing other players comes with a significant risk, as an incorrect guess costs 2 lives for only 1 knowledge. However, when correctly identifying an opponent's leader, a player gains 7 points for their card. 1 life. They inflict 2 damage on the opponent and earn knowledge for every leader token targeted opponent turns on their dashboard. Accusations are a high-stakes strategy that can shift the tide of the game. All cores explained. There are 6 unique types of cores that can be consulted in the databook. Hidden, a player who engages the hidden core may choose an engage from a base core. Deception, base core. Player engaging the core collects 3 illusions. Exchange, base core. Player engaging the core collects 3 knocks. Betrayal, base core. Player engaging the core sees the top 3 cards of either Kinetic, Origin, or Resource decks, draws 1, and then discards the rest. Then, he can choose to either move a leading player back 2 board steps, or gain 1 adrenaline and move a last player forward 1 board step. Note, the player that engaged the core decides the movement, and also if there are multiple players on a leading step or on a last step, the player who engaged the core also decides which player to move. Patrol, base core. When engaging a patrol, immediately update its difficulty level with the tracker on the board. When a hidden core is engaged as a patrol, it doesn't update the difficulty level and it follows the level on the tracker. Player who engaged the core gains 1 knowledge and 1 adrenaline. Then, all players are called to combat the patrol. In clockwise order, a group combat mechanic starts. First, the player who engaged the patrol chooses and selects all activated power they wish to bring forth. Then, respecting the play order, one by one, other players decide if they want to join the fight or don't. If they do, they also need to select their activated power. Second, each other player that decided not to join the combat needs to roll a dice of power 3, which will add to the difficulty level of the patrol. Lastly, respecting the play order, all other players fighting the patrol roll their respective selected dices. The patrol difficulty level is set by its level on the tracker times the number of players fighting the patrol, plus a dice of power 3 per player not fighting the patrol. To defeat the patrol, players involved in the battle must collectively match or exceed its total power. If successful, players receive rewards based on their individual power contributions. The player who contributes with the most power earns the top reward with 1 victor per prize. Players that didn't join the fight don't receive any loot. The patrol loot is by order 1 Arcane card, 2 Origin cards, and 1 Origin card. When facing the patrol, players have only 1 opportunity to defeat it. If they fail in their attempt, the player who engaged in the patrol loses 1 life. However, all other players who joined in the fight lose 2 lives. Chaos Core. Player who engages a Chaos Core gains 1 adrenaline and targets a player to roll the dice of punishment. Core control effects and the dice of punishment. Let's explore the control effect of all cores that can be triggered by a control kinetic card or by rolling the dice of punishment, which holds the control effects of all cores in the game. Triggering a control effect doesn't remove the core from the board. The control effect is triggered by the player responsible for making another move with the control kinetic card or targeting a player for the dice of punishment. In the game, if a player can't do any part of the control effect, that player loses 1 life. Deception. Torture targeted player. Exchange. Steal 3 resources from the targeted player. Betrayal. Choose and destroy 1 built card from the targeted player. Patrol. Steal 2 cards from the targeted player. Chaos. The targeted player loses 1 life. Hidden. Choose a control effect from any other core. Players have access to this information in the databook. Arcane cards. These cards are unique and possess unparalleled power. Arcane cards don't count to the hand limit and by definition cannot be stolen. They don't have any cost to use and can be played any time during the game. Once played, Arcane cards are kept, as they award 2 points each at the end of the game. Resolving stack of Arcane cards. The last Arcane card played is resolved first. Then, if there is any other Arcane card on the stack, the owners of the card can opt out of playing them and keep the card in their hands. Tower cards. First tower. The first player to reach or pass the first tower step reveals one of the 4 cards in the pool to trigger its first tower effect. Once this effect is activated, no other player can trigger the first tower effect of any remaining cards. Second tower. Whenever 2 players reach or pass the second tower step, the last player reveals one of the 3 remaining cards in the pool, triggering the second tower effect of all revealed cards. This trigger repeats for each subsequent different player that reaches the second tower. However, the last player to reach the second tower activates all tower cards' second tower effect. Sentinels. The Sentinels were sent by the Ravohria family to retrieve the capsules from the mercenaries that are escaping and wreaking havoc in the reserved area. At the end of each day, the Sentinel moves 1 board step, placing 1 illusion on the left corner of that board step. When the Sentinels reach a tower, they move 1 extra step. Each time the Sentinels move to a new board step or steps, all players lose 1 life for each patrol core on the new steps. Once a step is under the Sentinel's control, all steps behind are also controlled by them, and it remains so until the end of the game. At the end of a day, if a player is on a board step that is controlled by the Sentinels, that player loses 1 life. Also, when the Sentinels reach the exit step, all players within the board die. Illusions on the board. Illusions are mechanical tools mercenaries use to attack, frame enemies, and also to lure the attention of the Sentinels attempting to deceive their incoming threat. When an illusion is connected to the Sentinels, every connected illusion is considered part of the Sentinels. During the placement of illusions, the active player must deploy a minimum of 2 illusions on the board. They can be placed at the starting range of 1 from the active player, or prolong an existing path of illusions on the board if the active player is within a range of 1 from that path. This means that if a player at the end of a day is on a board space with an illusion that is connected to the Sentinels, that player loses 1 life. Killing other players. When players deal the decisive blow and kill another, via illusions on the board, core control effects, accusations, interferences, or other mechanics and cards, they gain the target's capsule, which is worth 10 points, and also generate additionally its resources during the generating phase. The last player on the board. When a player becomes the last player on the board, that player may finish the current day and still make points. However, afterwards, that player must solely focus on surviving and exiting the board, as any dynamics performed will no longer add points. End of the game and counting points. The game ends when all players move to the exit step. Then, to find the winner, the easiest way to count points is to go through the general points 1 by 1 and only then add the leader's points. Information regarding all points is in the databook. Remember, players who die during the game cannot play after their death, and they have no points. So now you're ready to play Ravohria. For further details, or if you have any doubts, you can check the rule book. Please share your experience, follow us for more, and thank you for watching this video. Disclaimer: this is a prototype of Ravohria. It is not the final version, and all components are subject to change.